frame of the windshield. B pillars reside between the front and rear side windows, and C pillars are found on either side of the rear window. In ancient times, that is until now, automotive pillars were black or the same color as the car, in either case opaque. These days, engineers are designing pillars of steel-framed transparent plexiglass, which offers drivers of our modern chariots a more unobstructed view and a safer ride. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. America's flag waves red, white, and blue and stands for freedom. Well, the banners of racing sport colors and brandish messages of their own. And when we come back, I'll run them up the flagpole. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. E15 as a choice at the pump benefits engines of today's EPA E15 approved vehicles. The first gas station offering an E15 alternative to drivers of light-duty vehicles, model year 2001 and newer, opened its E15 pumps to consumers in Lawrence, Kansas in July 2012. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Just like Old Glory, the flags of racing have colors and messages too, and they're waved to communicate with drivers. Like on streetlights, green flags mean go, yellow means caution and slow down, and red means stop the race. Blue flags tell contenders to let the faster driver overtake, and white says one lap to go. Racer's favorite flag? The checkered flag is black and white, and white says one lap to go. Racer's favorite flag? The checkered flag is black and white and marks the finish line. Interestingly, the first checkered flag waved in 1890 was actually a tablecloth. It may have signaled the end of an impromptu Italian contest, but it was the beginning of a tradition. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Delighted to have you in the house. In fact, we've got a new crew at the helm today. Well, I wouldn't say that they're new, but John Thielen is working the board. Ted is working and taking your calls at 888 Car Clinic. And also, Jonathan is doing his usual logging and taking care of all the chat rooms and just doing all the things that our wonderful crew does. And I got to tell you, I may get all the recognition for Bobby Likis Car Clinic, but I'm just the man on the front side. The recognition for Bobby Likis Car Clinic, but I'm just the man on the front side. It's the back side that really makes a difference. And it's your calls that make a difference. So let's ride along for this hour and have some fun. We'll open another bank of phones at 888 Car Clinic, which is an easier number for you to remember. 888-227-2546. I see that James is in the queue and another phone is lighting up, so now's the time for you to get in. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by General Tire and its innovative replacement tire monitor technology. Way cool. Providing the user with a warning when the tire is worn, so it needs to be replaced, and you know it because it reads in the tread, needs new tire. Unbelievable. Drive to generaltire.com for all the details and take a look at this innovative replacement tire monitor technology. And stay tuned for more coming up after the break from yours truly, Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the G-Max AS03, the ultra-high-performance all-season tire. The G-Max AS03 features a V-shaped pattern with aqua-cleave groove elements that help channel and direct water out of the tread for excellent resistance to hydroplaning. Want to go farther on your tires? Check tire pressure monthly, including your spare. Underinflated tires can decrease MPG and steering control, while overinflation results in a harsher ride. Tires can decrease MPG and steering control, while overinflation results in a harsher ride. During your monthly pressure check, inspect tires for cuts or abrasions, then once a year, have your alignment evaluated. Improperly aligned tires will wear prematurely and even drag themselves on the road, ultimately reducing MPG. Finally, rotate and balance tires every 6,000 to 10,000 miles. Out-of-balance tires can bounce, which causes tire chop, wear issues, and an unstable vehicle. Drive to generaltire.com to learn more about the G-Max AS03, featuring patented interlocking 3D sight technology. The tread blocks actually work together to improve handling and reduce heat for increased tread life. Learn more at generaltire.com. That's generaltire.com. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Total miles traveled in testing E15, the most exhaustively tested fuel ever approved by EPA, would represent 12 round trips to the moon. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol. Pay a mechanic $100 for fuel system cleaning or clean it yourself like a pro for $30. Rid your fuel system of performance-crippling carbon deposits and take back the power of your engine with new Fuel Pro Complete from Motor Medic. In 2 easy steps in 5 minutes, Fuel Pro Complete restores power, eliminates knocking, pinging, and rough idling, plus improves fuel economy. Fuel Pro Complete, the professional fuel system cleaning kit from Motor Medic. Get it today at participating. Fuel Pro Complete, the professional fuel system cleaning kit from Motor Medic. Get it today at participating O'Reilly Auto Parts and AutoZone stores.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Like Shakespeare, we ask the question, what's in a name? Ours is pretty blah. We're Geico, not to be confused with Gecko, a small tree lizard. And no, Geico doesn't have a sister company named Girl Co. So, in the absence of a perfect name, focus group tested for hipness, we offer car insurance at a fair price. In 15 minutes, you could save 15%. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Our name may not be cool, but saving money always is. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
I tend to put things off. For example, I put off getting a home equity line of credit for a while. Then one day, when I should have been doing my laundry, I went to LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form and got 4 offers back within hours. Then I chose the line of credit that was right for me. Who knows? I may even get around to using it someday.
When banks compete, you win at LendingTree.com. Equal housing opportunity. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I hope you had a great week, and I hope that your car is running well for you. A lot to do with the weather, Car Clinic. I hope you had a great week, and I hope that your car is running well for you. A lot to do with the weather. If you've noticed that in really, really cold weather, the car doesn't want to light off. It doesn't want to start because it doesn't want to crank over easily. And that's because of the extra friction, and also because your battery loses about half its power when your temperature reaches below freezing. And that's just normal for a battery. So there's the sweet spot, though. Believe it or not, batteries don't like coal, right? but they don't like hot either. They being real, it sounds to me like I'm putting a human thing to cars, but that's just what I do. I will tell you that it's up to you to determine what your car needs, or at least when your car needs to be inspected. And I recommend 3 times per year you take it into a shop and just have it looked over. And remember that an oil change is not supposed to be a 10-minute fast out, a fast in, fast out type of service. An oil change comes with an inspection. In fact, you should forget the word oil change and think of inspection and say, I want my car inspected, and also while you're there, perform an oil change, because a lot can happen in 5,000 miles. Now, the first 5,000 miles is a gimme. And I say gimme. You got a new car, it's got 5,000 miles, it's a baby. Even the first 5 oil changes, or 6, 30,000 miles. But along that 30,000 mile stretch, things start to happen. Tires wear, and actually tires wear a lot quicker than that. But there are belts that need to be inspected, hoses that need to be, and actually tires wear a lot quicker than that. But there are belts that need to be inspected, hoses that need to be inspected, filters, and don't forget your cabin air filter. You'd be shocked at what we see with folks riding around with their cabin air filters, and just really microbial growth, and sometimes animal hair, and lots of other things. So that's just a to-do for you. And also, we'll open the phones up. Ted is taking your calls today, and he's done a great job. Been with us for 2 or 3, 4 years, and works part-time, actually, and he's taking his test. So, Ted, you said you took your test, or you're going to take your test there this week?
I took my test and aced them both.
You aced them both. And what were the tests for?
One was for software assurance and security. The other was data mining. Very technical.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. That's why he's in the control room. He and JT and Jonathan the same way. Brainiacs. The young guys and the older guys as well. No pun intended, JT. Okay, let's go to the phones. We're going to take a call from James because he called in the first thing, and then we have Jim from Detroit, our car clinic reporter. He's going to be coming up, and I'll take your calls. Now's the time to get in. Ted will take your call. I know that he can push the right buttons because he's a brainiac. Ted, glad to have you in the house. The phone number is 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. We'll go to James. James, Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. We'll go to James. James, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding, and thanks for calling in early.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Oh, well, like the old guy said, only better than I deserve, But anyhow, I called you about 2 weeks ago. I got a 2001 Town and Country.
Right.
And it's my daughter's van. I was driving it last year, and it was giving me problems. And the radiator was cut up in it. It boiled the transmission fluid. Put it in the shop. They put a new radiator in it, pulled the pan off, put new filter, new gasket under there, and topped it back off. And she let it sit up for about 7 months. I bought the van from her, but transmission's not shifting right. So I get under there, and I noticed there's no transmission fluid in it. I pull the stick out. I had to top it off, run it for a day or two. Look, it's gone again. So I put it on the rack, and I went and got me a filter and a pan gasket. I get under there. A mechanic, you got to know and you got to trust to work on your vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyhow, when they put this pan back on there, every one of these bolts is hand tied.
Wow.
And so I want to change. The fluid was cooked in it. They just topped it back off. I want to flush the system out. The fluid was cooked in it. They just topped it back off. I want to flush the system out.
Well, James,
from watching the oil pan, drain the torque converter, and flush it out. What do I do?
Well, you're gonna, that's beyond the equipment that you have at your garage, because we use a machine, and I forget what we paid for the machine, $3,000 or $4,000, but it's an extractor machine, and so you have to have a shop to do that for you, because number one, you got the old fluid and you have the new fluid, and you do not want to mix the two. And so what the machine has, and just envision a propane gas tank, James, and then envision that you sever that tank in half and put a flange bolt, just like a pipe flange, and in the middle you put a bladder, a rubber bladder. And so on one side of the bladder you have 12 quarts of new fluid, and of course on the other side of the bladder you have an empty container, but it has a port leading to the transmission cooler lines. Then you fire the engine up, and the pressure from the transmission cooler line pushes the old fluid. Of course, it's bleeding now because it's going out of the cooler line that normally goes to the radiator, and it doesn't bleed into the yard or into the garage. It bleeds into that line that pushes against the bladder, and that pressure pushes new fluid into the transmission. So you've got all the old fluid going out the front, pushes new fluid into the transmission. So you've got all the old fluid going out the front, and you've got all the new fluid coming back in the return line. And so that is the only way that you can properly exchange old and new fluid, and that'll get about, I don't know, they advertise 98%, but 95%, I mean, you know, that's a lot better than you'll ever do by drain and fill. Otherwise, you're relegated to drain and fill, and there's no drain plug on there. So you can't be taking the pan off and put the pan on, because you never get all the old stuff out because there's no converter drain. And that's where the real problem lies. In the older days, in the older cars, you had a drain for the converter. Well, that doesn't exist today. So you need to find a shop that offers the transmission fluid exchange service, and that's the solution to your question.
Okay, would they pump a liquid through it or just pressurize it?
No, they actually pump the new fluid through it, and they won't pressurize it. The system pressurizes itself, because when the engine is running, the front pump creates pressure, and that pressure, only about 30 psi at best, pushes fluid to through the radiator, and so you interrupt the radiator coolant lines, and that's where the machine ties in, coming and going. You got it? I
got it. We've got an AMCO here locally.
Yeah. Well, they certainly can.
I appreciate it. You have a great weekend.
Hey, man, thank you so much. And
here locally.
Yeah. Well, they certainly can.
I appreciate it. You have a great weekend.
Hey, man, thank you so much, and let me know when you get to the other side how it comes out for you. And always.
The reason why I got this van, Bobby, it's in immaculate shape. I mean, it is almost showroom, except the headliner.
Well,
and that's what I got to do is I want the transmission clean.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
and then I work on the interior.
Okay, one more thing before I let you go. On the headliner, you can go to a upholstery shop, what's called a trim shop, and they'll replace the headliner. And a lot of times, used car dealerships, if you know someone that's in the dealer, a car dealer, used car dealerships have individuals that come to their lot, and you can really save a lot of money. Or you can go to a local trim shop, and that headliner comes as a complete assembly with a hardboard, the whole 9 yards. What you do not want to do is to re-glue anything to do with the headliner. Take the old one out, trash it, put a new one in. You got it?
Everything's got to come out. I got a trim shop over here not far from me, and he told me, he said, Jimmy, I have to take everything out.
That's right.
All the seats out.
He's right. He's right.
And then get in there, take all this out, clean it up, put the new one back in. He told me, I'm not going to tell you what he told me it cost, but it's reasonable.
Okay, take care. See ya.
Bobby, y'all have a great weekend.
And you as well, my friend. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. We'll take another call from Bert, and then we're going to come to Jim probably very shortly. Bert, welcome to Bert. And then we're going to come to Jim probably very shortly. Bert, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bert, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You're on the air.
I have a crazy problem. I inadvertently stuck an extra CD in my CD player.
Oh, really?
At the Ford 500.
Oh. How'd you
get it? I was at the dealer yesterday having an oil change.
Right.
And I asked him if they might be able to get it out. And there was a fellow in the back there that said sometimes he has luck with this thin little, sort of like a blade. And anyhow, he said he couldn't get it out.
Right.
So I found out it cost anywhere from $800 to $1,200 to get that squared away, and I can't afford that kind of money. I just wonder if you might have an idea, if you've heard of anything like that, or any of your listeners might have an idea of how it could possibly...
Is that CD player, Bert, is that a multi-disc player, or is it a single disc?
It's a single disc. I call them records from the old school.
Right.
So, just like a little record.
I understand.
It's not a TV. It just plays records, music.
I understand.
So
let me understand. You had a disc in there, and you tried to push another disc in there, and it, of course, didn't go, and now it's buried in there.
It's jammed in there.
Well,
it actually took the other disc, and then when I went to play it, it said error on entrance or something like that.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me. It said error on entrance or something like that.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me that I had one of the discs that I listened to all the time was in there, and I said, gotten a new one. And anyhow, I know there's two in there because the one that I always listen to, which was I'm from Detroit.
Well, you stay right there. When we come back, and I have some information for you. And folks, you stay right there. We'll come back after the break. From the Car Clinic inbox, Jason in Dallas writes, Bobby, the battery in my 2012 Honda just died. I hear you talking about Power Frame. Is this a battery you recommend? And where can I get it? Jason, Power Frame isn't actually a battery brand. Power Frame is the type of grid technology inside select automotive batteries. Why are grids so important? The positive grid provides the energy necessary to start your car, and corrosion of this grid is the #1 cause of battery failure. Power Frame grids are different because the patented grid pattern is optimized for consistent and superior starting power. The manufacturing method and material composition used to produce Power Frame grids result in increased durability and corrosion resistance. In fact, they're 66% more durable than other grid designs like book mold or expanded metal. You can find Power Frame grid technology inside Autocraft Gold and Platinum AGM and CarQuest Silver, Gold, and AGM batteries at your local Advanced Auto Parts and CarQuest stores. For more about Power Frame grid technology, drive to powerframe.com. History's full of automotive breakthroughs about Power Frame grid technology. Drive to powerframe.com. History's full of automotive breakthroughs like the electric starter in 1911 and analog brakes in 1985. Now Shell is proud to introduce another automotive breakthrough, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, featuring an innovative additive package with patented technology. Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline protects against all three main types of engine performance threats: gunk, corrosion, and wear. In conventional engines, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline cleans and protects intake valves and fuel injectors. In modern engines, it works in extremely hot engine temperatures to resist the breakdown of cleaning agents and protect against performance-robbing gunk. Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, proven in industry standard test and recommended by BMW M Series. Don't give your engine just any premium gasoline. Choose a breakthrough. Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Learn more at shell.com/US.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I want to share with you some information a little later in the program about the International Speedway Corporation in Daytona, a special announcement. And I'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. At the break, we were talking with Bert, who has 2 CDs stuck in his CD player. Of course, the player can only hold one. I can only imagine that it's jammed in there. He had a price of some $700 or $800 or $900 to replace a unit. You can buy, just Bert, for your information, if you go online, and you might want to try eBay or your information. If you go online, and you might want to try eBay or other sites like that, but you can buy a replacement original CD player for your vehicle a lot less expensive than buying a new replacement. So if you want just the factory unit, because there are a lot of folks that upgrade that's what's called a head unit. So what do you do with the old unit? Well, folks, there are so many old units that, when I say old units, the factory unit that people take out. And of course, knowing where to find one is sort of the trick. But given the internet capability, I would recommend you go to eBay and search on eBay for one, and make sure you're dealing with someone there that has a good rating And you should be able to buy a unit for, I don't know, 100, 200 bucks. That'll save you a lot of dollars there. I'm glad you called. Let's go now to Detroit. We're going to talk with Jim, who is our car clinic reporter. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning.
Good morning, Bobby. It is a good morning, a nice bright, cold day here in Michigan. But I remember having my car now for 3 years, and I haven't played one CD yet in the player. So I guess I'm not going to stick what I use my Cyrus radio. They play the oldies from Channel 5, and I love it.
Well, you know what? I have a multi-inputs. I have 5 AV inputs on mine, and it has, of course, standard AM and FM, which I listen to. It has Sirius, which I listen to. It has, of course, standard AM and FM, which I listen to. It has Sirius, which I listen to. It has my iPad, iPhone, or whatever that USB, whatever device I have plugged in. And so I have my own music. And then I have a DVD player that I keep in there that's one of my favorite videos. Of course, you can't watch it while the car is moving, but in the back seat I have screens, and so my passengers can watch it. In fact, they can watch different shows or listen to different venues on either side of the rear seat while I'm listening to something else up front. So I truly am, I love the technology in the car, and I really enjoy the mixture. You know, having I guess that's just American to have the choice, and that's where really it comes down to. You got a vehicle that has 4 or 5 AV inputs, then if you're tired of one, you just switch over to another one. Sometimes it can be perplexing to ride with me because about the time one song starts, I switch to another because I've heard it before, but that's just me. You know. What'd you bring us this morning from the world of automobiles?
Okay, Bobby, but before we get to it real short, they've got to clear up the simul broadcasting on the internet. Your show is like we're sea hunting, gargling on their quality.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to
I say that not just for me, but for all the listeners. It's got to be clear.
Well, that doesn't, we'll have to check into that because you're the first.
But for all the listeners, it's got to be clear.
Well, that doesn't, we'll have to check into that because you're the first person that's mentioned that on the air. So, Ted, if we would, let's check into that and see what, if there's any problem with our video cast. In the meantime, let's go forward and give us a report on what you brought to the table this morning.
Okay, Bobby, this is the first time in 112 years in the Ford history that they had the greatest profit, which is fantastic because not too many years ago, the auto companies, the big three, were worried about will we have an auto industry in Michigan, and it was kind of hairy there to wait for the final decision because some of the people down south didn't want manufacturers to be treated good here. That's the way I saw the picture anyway. But let's get to the Ford thing, where they made $2.5 billion in the first quarter this year. And, you know, that's a really good turnout and a good pickup. Ford's cross-rival General Motors said it's on track for a banner 2016 year, posted record first quarter adjusted earnings of $2.7 billion before interest rates, and while still lagging behind the Detroit counterpart, Fiat Chrysler is still making millions on the backs of Jeep and Ram trucks. So the big industry, the three of them, are still rolling along pretty good in my estimation. By the way, an update on Tesla. Tesla is currently up to production. They are not falling behind in production with one of the big. Tesla is currently up to production. They are not falling behind in production with one of the big reports. And we talk a lot about electric vehicles, but there's some big improvements in the foresight ahead in the next 3 to 5 years in gasoline engines. They're going to run them lower. They're going to run them more efficiently, and they're going to be able to handle either nitrogen fuels, diesel fuels, or the standard fuel that we use in our cars today. This is going to be a big improvement, and that'll mean cost reduction because the engines are going to be more compact, smaller, and last longer.
Well, I agree with you, and to that end, what drives all of this is, number one, consumer demand. Obviously, you've got to make a product that people will buy, and that's indicative of what the reports that you've given on Chrysler and the big three. I would say the big three. Of course, Fiat is not one of the three, but you could consider it is because of Chrysler. So the profits or the proof is in the profit, and also the technology that's available. And there's a lot of pressure because of the 54.5 CAFE mandate for MPG. So you're right about downsizing, making smaller engines, and that's what the manufacturers are doing. And to that end, they're using higher octane because they're using, and that's what ethanol brings to the table because it's 113 octane rating. So you'll be seeing a higher blends of ethanol up to 25, 30%. I understand the sweet. So you'll be seeing a higher blends of ethanol up to 25, 30%. I understand the sweet spot is about 25%. And what that will allow and enable the manufacturers to do is that will enable them to increase the compression ratio, which automatically increases the power density of any engine. And power density just simply means how much power you can get, torque and horsepower, but mainly torque you can get from an engine based on a certain size engine, whether it's a 2-liter or a 3-liter or a 5-liter. But basically, we're looking at I think the sweet spot there is 2.5-liter engines with turbochargers. I say chargers, multiple chargers, because you're using smaller turbochargers. You put a twin turbo on, say, a 4-cylinder engine, and now you've got a 1 turbocharger that is pushing air into two cylinders versus 3 or 4 or 5. So that turbocharger can be much smaller because it doesn't have to push as much air because you're only feeding 2 cylinders. And to that end, you'll have a higher efficient engine, you'll have better gas mileage, and then because the oxygen content in ethanol, which is 35% of every molecule contains oxygen, then that in turn will allow that engine to burn cleaner and with no residual, or with so little residual left over. In fact, the only residual in gasoline now, and there are more than a left over. In fact, the only residual in gasoline now, and there are more than 1,000 chemicals in gasoline, Jim. And the real challenge there is each one of those chemicals burns at a different rate, and as they burn, there are other chemicals that are created and generated. So the Argonne National Lab has done tremendous studies, and they're in the middle of a 5-year study now on fuels and the IC engine. So the ICE, the internal combustion engine, is here to stay. And yet you would talk with a lot of people that say, well, no, it's going to be all electric. Well, that's not going to be that way at all. So the internal combustion engine, number one, continues to get better and better. And to that end, are you familiar with Koenigsegg? Koenigsegg is a gentleman that made a fabulous, he's an inventor, and he made his very fast automobiles, one of the fastest, if not the fastest for its time, production cars. Well, he just came out with, and I say came out, it's not in mass production, but no camshaft engine, what's called free cam. And that free cam engine uses air and electronic solenoids to open and close the valves. It uses a spring to close the valve, but it uses air to open the valve, whereas in a regular camshaft, you have to raise the ramp and until the cam goes up the ramp, and then it goes over the nose. Raise the ramp and until the cam goes up the ramp, and then it goes over the nose of the lobe, and then comes back down on the other side. So you don't have the flow on the initial raising, and you don't have much flow on the initial closing. So if you could run a square cam lobe, of course that would chop off the lifter, so you can't do that. But with an air control, you can open the lifter, open the valve to whatever extent or whatever travel you want to, when you want it to open, and whatever speed and rate you want it to open, and you can do the same thing closing. So open, bam, close, bam, and you've got an engine that breathes better, and they're claiming, I don't believe this, but they're claiming a 30% increase in power, in torque, and in MPG. That's what the claim is, but they also are in the testing processes. So you're right about...
It's supposed to be released in the next 3 years, Bobby, on the market. Manufacturers are already dealing about it.
Well, they are. GM passed on that particular engine, but as you know, Honda's used that in the Formula One cars for years and years, and it's a fantastic system. It's very expensive, and yes, it'll be electronically controlled. I just wonder what'll happen if you get a glitch in the computer and the valves start opening when they're not supposed to, and you have pistons and valves colliding. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Well, I understand that one of the other developers is they're using the outtake gas to go back in. Yeah, that should be interesting. Well, I understand that one of the other developers is they're using the outtake gas to go back in to keep compression and the engine increase efficiency that way, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Miller cycle. Hey,
right. See, Bobby, I'm learning from you to try to be the best.
Well, you do a great job. Anything else you have?
Yeah, we're going to talk briefly about the new Spider car that's back on the road after 31 years for Chrysler. Starting price at $24,995. It has more options. It's sleeker. It's 160 horsepower, 140-pound-feet of torque and a luxurious model with the same specs. And then you can go up higher for $27,000. They're also going to make a custom version for those guys that like to collect cars that come out, and then the car is usually worth more than what you paid for it.
Wow. Well, that's the secret to making a car. In fact, that's what GT did, the Ford GT in '06, and they created a classic car before its time. And usually it takes 30 years to make a classic car, but the manufacturers love to have an automobile that 2 or 3 or 4 years after it comes out is worth more, or 2 or 3 or 4 months is worth more than the manufacturer suggested list price. And the Ford GT is one of those cars, and you've heard me mention and talk about the way Ford is actually screening the folks that are ordering their cars for the new $400,000+ GT. So there's a lot going on in the world of automobiles, and that just means GT. So there's a lot going on in the world of automobiles, and that just means that, folks, you got to change your oil and filter in your car to keep up until you get a car that has no oil and filter. That may be a steam engine. You know, Jim, thank you so much for your report today, and always I enjoy trading stories with you and what you bring to the table.
All right, Bobby, I'll be back on table next week.
Thank you, sir. Well, there you have it, folks. More information, 888-227-2546. We're going to come back and talk with Greg and Howard, and your calls at 888-227-2546, and we're going to hear from OnStar as well. In the service bay this week is the 2012 Kia Optima. Its owner says the car is sluggish, especially on cold startups. Our diagnosis? A tremendous buildup of carbon on the backside of its intake valves. This can happen with gasoline direct injection, or GDI, engines, as fuel is not being sprayed on the backside of intake valves. The mist of gasoline can actually help keep intake ports clean. So what can you do? Use new Fuel Pro Complete from Motor Medic. Fuel Pro Complete works on both GDI and PFI, or port fuel injection engines. Dealerships can charge $100 for this service, but Fuel Pro Complete from Motor Medic costs a fraction of that. Fuel Pro Complete treats both the air intake and the fuel system, and it's easy to use. You don't need to unscrew any air intakes or worry about harming sensors. Visit FuelProComplete.com for more. Unscrew any air intakes or worry about harming sensors. Visit FuelProComplete.com for more information, including a demo video and port locator with a list of vehicle makes and models. That's FuelProComplete.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but morning's knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases. The very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with like new condition limos. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors. A better way to sell your car.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Call your car questions at 888 Car Clinic. Before we go to the phones, I have on the hotline Letitia Gambari from OnStar. And folks, we typically interview OnStar's management team about trends and technology, but today I'm talking with Letitia, just named Dispatcher of the Year by the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. This prestigious award goes to a single 911 call center dispatcher, or prestigious award goes to a single 911 call center dispatcher or EMS responder for service above and beyond the call of duty. This year, that award goes to OnStar advisor Letitia, who helped deliver 2 babies at 2 different times in the year. Letitia, congratulations and welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
I just can't imagine. What does this award mean to you?
Oh my God, it is literally the Oscar of my career, so it is very exciting for us. It's an achievement for not just myself, but my team, and we're all just overjoyed and so grateful to have won it.
Well, before we get into the details of the delivery calls, and I do want to hear a little bit about that, tell our Car Clinic listeners and viewers what a typical day is like for you as an OnStar advisor.
I'm from the emergency team, so we receive the emergency calls on the emergency button. So sometimes we have accidental key presses, sometimes we have roadside assistance, sometimes there are medical emergencies, and sometimes we receive crash notifications. It's all very different call types that come in, and we don't know what we're getting until they're on the line.
We're talking with Letitia Gambari from OnStar, who just won Dispatcher of the Year. Dispatcher of the Year, that's a very prestigious award. Let's talk about now how you helped deliver a single baby. You assisted in 2 separate deliveries in the same year. Tell us about taking those calls.
Very exciting. The first one we had was the breech delivery. It was mom and...
Taking those calls.
Very exciting. The first one we had was the breech delivery. It was mom and dad and the grandmother in the vehicle on a way to a camping trip. Baby decided to come down feet first a little bit early ahead of schedule, and we gave mom instructions on how to deliver a high-risk delivery on the side of a highway. The second one was the daughter and father, and they were planning on going to the hospital and just didn't make it.
That is unbelievable. So you actually helped these folks as they were on the way to the hospital, and in fact they delivered both of these babies before they ever received or got to the hospital, right?
The one baby, the first baby that was being born breech, didn't actually deliver. The baby was born in the hospital safely, and the second baby that we delivered was actually delivered on the line with us in the backseat of Grandpa's car.
It's hard to imagine what it's like to be in your shoes. What other types of calls do you receive there at OnStar?
We just get, as I mentioned, a mix before, so it's a lot of accidentals, and then we have roadside assistance, and then we have the medical emergencies that come through, and it all just ranges, and sometimes you get accidental, then it's a roadside, and then a heart attack. Then the next one could be a seizure, and then after that another accidental. So you never really know what you're getting until it's actually right there.
So, Letitia, do you sit in a specific chair or in a segment, or are they, I guess my question would be, does OnStar direct the calls that are some that go for direction and are direct the calls that are some that go for direction and just need directions, and then some emergencies, or all they just come in at random?
We have the calls that are directed, so when we get the calls, our calls that come through from my team specifically are emergency calls. These are people that have chosen to press the red emergency button for whatever reason or accidentally, and what the intention is for them to be coming through for need of police, fire, or medical assistance. They come through on our line, or a collision notification will come through on our line. But the other button, which would be the blue OnStar button, that one is for customer service and general direction.
So I guess one final question. When you walk in to your job and you have your other associates there, your colleagues, I mean, you have to walk in really feeling proud to have won this award.
Absolutely. I know when I get home, because we had no idea, so when we get home it's going to be absolutely crazy. We have a really small team, and we're all very energetic and very close people, so it's going to be fun when I get home. I'm really anxious about that.
Have you ever had a call to where you really just couldn't handle it and had to have a supervisor or someone to help, or are you seeing? It sounds to me like you wear the shoes and you know exactly how to help people.
I do wear the stilettos in the morning. I start my shift at 5 a.m. We have an incredible management team at my center. There's never been a call that I've ever had to have a supervisor take over, but we definitely have quite a few calls where we have the supervisor plug in just as a second set of ears, and they're there to assist us if we need them for whatever reason, or just to get the message out even faster to our first advisor ears, and they're there to assist us if we need them for whatever reason, or just to get the message out even faster to our first advisor who needs to update the 911 center with maybe sending more officers or sending a second ambulance. So we do have great management that is able, and they're there right behind us if we need them, but I've never had to have a supervisor take it over for me.
So just one final question, and I'll let you go. For those out there who drive cars with the OnStar management system and the roadside assistance and the emergency, that system is not only for emergencies, but it's for directions, it's for help, right?
Absolutely. We're here to help.
Well, Letitia Gambari, sounds to me like you've helped a lot of people, and you're going to continue to help with OnStar. Congratulations. A website where we can get more information for OnStar.
If you just go to the OnStar website at onstar.com, all of our information is there. We have a great team that keeps everything up to date. So just go to the website, visit, check out the services, and if you are ever fortunate enough to get into a GM vehicle, just push the button. We're always there. Sounds great to me. Letitia Gambari, congratulations again. Thanks for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic today. Well, thank you so much for having us. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, I just can't imagine how it feels to help someone. She's helped folks there across the nation and every day. And I've actually been to the Ren Center and to the OnStar headquarters in Detroit, and it's just very interesting to me. They have a command center that's much like in Houston, the Space Command Center. We'll go back to the phones now and take another call in Houston, the Space Command Center. We'll go back to the phones now and take another call from Howard, and then Greg, we're coming to you. Howard, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and Howard's calling us from South Carolina, and you have advice on the stuck CD for the gentleman. I hope he's still tuned in. Howard?
The problem I had, I took a plastic needle nose pliers, not a metal one.
Right.
And I pulled mine out slowly, and I didn't have a problem with it. And after I did that, it worked fine.
Wow. Well, I've too have used some small tweezer types, but it sounds to me like he actually forced. If it's a single CD and he's forced two in there, I doubt that it'll come out without doing some open dash surgery. But
right.
Hey, I appreciate your call, and I appreciate you chiming in to offer that piece of information. Thank you. How's everything in South Carolina today?
Kind of hot today. Kind of hot.
Kind of hot. Well, thanks for tuning in, Howard, and thank you for your input on that other caller's problem. Stay tuned.
Okay, now enjoy your show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. 888-227-2546, folks, is the number for you to call. 888 Car Clinic. We'll go to Greg, and Greg is considering an expedition, I think. So, Greg, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house. Let's see. Let's get Greg. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house. Let's see. Let's get Greg on the phone here. Greg, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bobby. I sure do appreciate the show. I enjoyed that interview as well. That was pretty neat.
Well, yeah, it was pretty neat. I just imagine, and I've been to the Ren Centers I mentioned earlier.
Right.
I don't know. We actually produced a remote broadcast, and the same company that made our studios, Acoustic Systems, made the studios there for OnStar.
Neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really neat. Yeah. What can I do for you, man?
I'd like your input, and my wife and I were looking at two different expeditions. One is it's an 03 with the 4.6 two-valve, and then the one we're looking at, the 05, it has the 5.4. And I've heard not so pleasant things about the 5.4 in the era of the 2005 timeline.
The spark plug issue?
Spark plugs issues, coil pack issues, timing chains.
Well, you hit three nails on the head right there. Coil pack, spark plug breaking off in the cylinder head.
Right, just blowing through the hood almost.
What happens, and what Ford Motor Company did was not a better idea for them, was they extended the spark plug fire slot down the electrode, extended the spark plug fire slot down the electrode about, I'm going to say, 750 thousandths, 3/4 of an inch or so into the chamber. And because that extension is exposed to the combustion chamber, it cokes up and gets carboned over.
Right.
And as a result, when you unscrew the plug, and you pull the plug out, that's extra sleeve that is not part of the spark plug but crimped onto the spark plug breaks off.
Breaks off in there.
And in there, we've had that problem, and we've learned how to correct that problem, or learned how to pull the plugs out without creating the problem. And the way you do that is provide or perform what we call induction system service, where it decarbonizes the combustion chamber, but we leave it wet overnight. Run the engine, and then we leave the chemical pretty heavily saturated overnight. And you have to make sure that you don't hydraulic lock any engine, because that's a possibility when you're adding fluid directly into the lungs of an engine, as you know.
Yes,
So
sir.
we'll actually run that engine, and while it's still pretty heavily saturated, we'll shut it down and let that chemical, whatever that chemical, it's a commercial grade chemical, dissolve that carbon. And then the next day, that chemical, it's a commercial grade chemical, dissolve that carbon. And then the next day, we'll break the seal on the spark plug. Now, when I say break the seal, sometimes when you start to loosen the spark plug, literally it will crunch, crunch, crunch. It's unbelievably secure.
Oh, wow.
And so what we'll do then is we'll put a lubricant down in the spark plug hole, and hopefully you can get enough clearance between the seal of the spark plug and the head seat to where you get a bleed, and you can bleed some liquid down into the threads. And even then, it'll go. It still jerks coming out, and you can't use an impact. You have to be patient and what have you. Now, having said all that,
I guess if I could summarize,
okay.
You know, I'm a fan of your show. My boys are listening right now.
Right.
Ray and Tyler, want to give a shout out to them. So if I could summarize, if you had a choice between, they're both one-owner vehicles, they both have a little bit higher mileage, would you recommend the 4.6 over the 5.4? Or what would, I'd appreciate your opinion on that. That's the choice I'm up against.
I like the 5.4 engine.
Even though some of the issues that we've discussed.
Even though some of the issues, and see, the timing chain issue is directly related to oil changes. The spark plug issue is directly related to miles and the fact if they've ever been changes. The spark plug issue is directly related to miles and the fact if they've ever been changed before. And that's not the kiss of death, because they can be changed. You just have to find someone who knows what they're doing. And then the coil packs, you can buy those aftermarket, and whenever you do the spark plugs. So when you buy this vehicle, just say I'm going to put $1,500 aside for coil packs and spark plugs, and upgrade the engine, like, you know, hoses and belts and those sorts of things, and then you won't be disappointed. But you must have someone who's been there, done that, perform this service for you in order to get the biggest percentage of success in the repairs.
You got it.
Okay.
Thanks so much for the heads up. Enjoy
Thank you,
the show.
Greg. Thank you
Thanks
very
for your
much.
time.
Appreciate your call.
Okay. Bye for now.
And again, folks, when you're buying a used car or a used truck, a used Expedition, as in Greg's case, you always want to get a third set of eyes. And in our company, Car Clinic Service Pre-Repair, we perform a lot of what we call PPI. Now, PPI is a pre-purchase inspection, and it's a great service. We have a nominal charge. Ours is only $90 out the door, and it's really one of the best services. We haven't changed that price in 10, 12, 15 years that I remember. And I created a document, and it's chronologically laid out and logistically so that, and I created a document, and it's chronologically laid out and logistically so that the technician gets in the car. There are 80 points of inspection, and you can make it 800 points of inspection, but realistically, 80 points of inspection. And what we'll do is we'll get in the car, and there's we use 90-pound paper, so the technician has something substantial to write on, and versus a piece of paper that because this report goes to the owner of the vehicle or goes to the person paying for the pre-purchase inspection versus that owner. And then the owner can, the person that pays for the pre-purchase inspection can do whatever he or she likes with a report. But we crank the car, so we automatically know how the starter does. We put it in gear and let it idle, so we know if it idles smoothly, and we know how it engages in gear. And then we drive it, and by the time we go 2 blocks, we've already checked the exhaust system for noise. We've checked the transmission for shifting. We've checked the brakes and the steering, and we come back from the road test, we put it on the rack, and we look under it for any leaks, and then we look in the over it for under the hood, and then we look into the trunk. And one of the reasons we look in the trunk is to look for any moisture. And this is unusual, but it definitely is part of the good service that we provide. And I share this with you because when you get a used car, you need to have someone perform the same service. And we look for moisture in case there's some used car. You need to have someone perform the same service. And we look for moisture in case there's some leaks in the rear quarter panel or rear window. So that's what we have learned, and it really has worked for us really, really well. I mentioned Daytona International Speedway, and this week the International Speedway Corporation announced that Joey Chitwood III, Executive Vice President of the International Speedway Corporation and President of Daytona International Speedway, has been promoted to Chief Operating Officer of the International Speedway Corporation. Concurrently, the company announced that Chip Weil, President of Darlington Raceway, has been promoted to President of Daytona International Speedway. And Lisa France Kennedy, the CEO, said that Joey has played a tremendous role in the success of our flagship racetrack at Daytona International Speedway since 2010. So hats off to Joey Chitwood, and welcome to Chip Weil, the Daytona International Speedway Corporation. Folks, thanks for tuning in this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Time to go to the Car Clinic inbox. Scott writes, Bobby, the engine in my time was minimal change in temperature. After 2 more replacement thermostats, I went with your advice, used a Stant Superstat, and the problem was immediately fixed. I noticed that the Superstat was much closer to the design of the original part and that the Superstat was heavier than the cheaper ones I purchased. I really could feel and see the difference. Thank you, Scott. Stant Superstat is our choice and the choice of professional installers everywhere. Visit Stant.com for all the advantages of the Stant Superstat. That's Stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Bob, what's new? Last month I'm in Africa. When this wildebeest charges me, we butt heads and he's history. After I pull my guide from the jaws of an alligator, I dig into some beef jerky. I get heartburn. I take out my Rolaids as I'm fighting off a wild boar. In under 10 seconds, it starts working. Then the boar is bye-bye. My heartburn's gone.
Rolade starts working in under 10 seconds? You expect me to believe that?
It's true. Rolade starts neutralizing acid in under 10 seconds. ROLAIDS spells relief. Use as directed.
While Johnny Kim was getting ready for the first customers of the day, someone else was looking at Larger's face for his growing business. At 3 o'clock, while the Curtis family was watching their daughter's soccer game, someone else was walking a prospective tenant through one of their apartment buildings. And while Carmen Delabar was preparing for a fashion show, someone else met with an appraiser about her investment property. You've got a life. We let you live it. We're realtors. Real estate is our life.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Ride along with me, and I'll answer your car questions. Ted will take your call, put you in the queue at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546, and I will put you on the air. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Power Frame Grid Technology. Folks, Batteries with power frame technology are stronger, more durable, and keep you going. Look for the power frame logo on the outside and know that you're getting true strength on the inside of your next new battery. 888-227-2546. I see that Manny is in the queue from New Mexico. You could be in the queue. Ted will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, and I will put you on the air as well. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is also brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Keeping a car clean is a simple, inexpensive form of maintenance, and O'Reilly Auto Parts has the cleaning and detail products you need. Things like washes, waxes, polishes, plus leather and vinyl care. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for Clean Car Care Month. That's a great way to start off the month to clean your automobile. O'Reilly Auto parts, better prices every day. Your calls when I come back, 888-227-2546. And Manny's going to be first up with a 1990 Honda Accord. We'll see what's on Manny's mind when I come back. Don't touch that dial. This vehicle maintenance spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Car Care Month is the perfect time to rev up your vehicle's good looks. Start with a wash, but be sure to use the right products. A dishwashing liquid won't cut it. Choose a car wash that's actually designed for cars. Reduce the chance of scratching the finish by washing from the top down. Then protect your vehicle's paint with a high-quality wax at least twice a year. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts during Clean Car Month for great deals on everything you need to keep your car looking new, like Meguiar's Deep Crystal Car Wash, now $2.99 for a 64-ounce bottle. Bring out your vehicle shine with Meguiar's Deep Crystal Car Wash, $2.99 during Clean Car Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside, and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a face. And Regency Hospice delivers more faces to you and your loved one when life matters most. Faces of nurses, nursing assistants, social workers, and chaplains. Regency's skilled, compassionate professionals deliver comfort and individualized care. When that time of life comes to you, Regency Hospice will be there for you. Go to regencyhospice.com for more, including Hospice for Heroes Veterans Recognition Program.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, folks, welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm glad you tuned in today, and just remember that every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we bring this program to you, and we're going on our 25th year here, and it's amazing that at the differences and changes in automobiles, and I continue to be amazed by just the technology. Also, autonomous cars. You know, that's something that we've heard about and that make big news. But if you'll look at the next TV commercial for a new car, you'll see that some of that technology is being offered now as a teaser to entice you to buy a newer car. And to that end, it works because the automobile manufacturers are doing very well. They're selling a lot of cars, and those cars are safer today than ever in the history of transportation. Ted will take your call at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Put you in a queue, and I will put you on the air. I'll share a little bit about you, about SpaceX and Elon Musk's newest adventure, and then gasoline prices, and then also about Americans and the driver's license age, which continues to amaze me. But first, we're going to go to New Mexico and take a call from Manny. Manny, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Really delighted to have you join us today. And Manny comes to us from New Mexico. Manny, glad to have you join us. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm working on a 1990 Honda Accord for niece, and we've swapped out engines and transmissions. And one little problem that we have is when we go to start the engine, the temperature gauge goes all the way to hot, even when the engine is cold.
Well,
and would like an idea of what might be the problem.
Well, when you say it goes all the way to hot, the engine's cold, you mean when you crank the engine up, the gauge immediately goes to hot?
Correct.
The first thing I would do is disconnect the sensor, the engine temperature sensor on the engine, and that way. So let me share with you the 30,000 foot view of how that gauge works. The gauge has a constant voltage going to it, and that voltage could be say 9 volts, and there's a regulator in the instrument control panel. Later cars have a lot more sophisticated systems, but your 90 model vehicle probably has the regulated gauge. So you've got 9 volts feeding a gauge. Now, if you have 9 volts feeding the gauge, you have to have a ground, or that gauge won't move. The ground comes from the temperature sending unit on the engine. You follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So as the engine sensor is a thermistor, and the resistance, the ohms resistance of that sensor determines how much of a ground it gets. So if the engine is cool, it doesn't get much of a ground. As the engine increases, it gets more and more of a ground, and that makes the gauge rise. So if your engine, if your gauge is, your problem was with the gauge, not with the engine, as I read it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Because
I've changed that instrument cluster, and it's got a new thermistor. I think that's what you called it.
On the
it's
engine?
got a new thermal valve.
On the engine?
Yes.
Well, let me ask a question. If you crank that car up and disconnect the temperature gauge, because you could be replacing the wrong sensor and you think you've got the right one and not, have you actually, can you turn the key on, Manny, and without the engine running and still have the gauge read hot?
Oh boy, I'm trying to remember what we were doing. I remember disconnecting the sensor, and it's still going to hot when I turn the key.
Then see, therein lies the problem. That wire could be pinched, or that wire could be grounded, and it's because you've gone to the other end. If you've got the right wire, do you have a wiring diagram for this vehicle?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yes,
All right. So if you've got the right wire and you disconnect that wire from the engine, that gauge cannot move.
Okay.
Now some gauges like General Motors work backwards, where they go all the way hot and then it comes back. But I don't believe your Honda is set up that way. And so definitely what you need to do is you need to do what we call a pin-out test. Now that you've told me you've replaced the cluster, you actually are deeper into this than what I realized. So what I would do if I were you is I would disconnect, pull the cluster back out and find the wire, and you'll see that with your wiring, the schematic. Whatever, if there's a 30-pin plug, maybe pin number 17 goes from the gauge to the engine. So you want to isolate, and by isolating, you unplug the cluster main connector, you unplug the wire that goes to the engine, and then you take an ohm meter and you test the ohms resistance between that wire and in and of itself, and also the ground. So what you're doing is you're proving that you have a standalone wire that goes from pin number 17, or whatever pin it the schematic says, but pin number 17 to that engine. Is that clear? Do you understand where I'm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
that makes sense.
so now, if you know that wire is a standalone wire, it's not grounded, and you know that the gauge has voltage going to it, then and you unplug the other end, then it's got to be in the gauge or in the voltage going to the gauge, because if you've got the engine disconnected and you know that wire is disconnected because you know it feeds that particular one, that particular source, then you can isolate. And therein is where, that's the secret to performing electronic or electrical repairs: isolation. You isolate a circuit, isolate a wire, and it takes two wires to it takes two to tango, so it takes two wires to make something work. And in a lot of cases, with the later model vehicles, it's even more complicated than that. But I think that's enough information that can get you back into the hunt. Okay.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck to you, Manny. 888-227-2546 gas prices this week. Ted will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546 to put you in a queue, and I will put you on the air. Folks, the gasoline prices this week are $2.16 for U.S. regular grade gasoline, and that's a national average. The highest cost is $2.59 on the West Coast. And here's the irony of and the important factor and takeaway here. Number one, the gas prices today versus the gas prices 1 week ago, same time, are all up in all 10 regions across the country. And I have a listing for all 10 regions. So every region is up. Now, if you look at this same time last year, we're still lower than same time last year. But this is an indicator that gasoline prices are on the rise. And the most that I see here is about 4 cents. And that's in the Midwest, where the gasoline prices have risen 4 cents. But make no mistake about it, maybe you should go out and fill your gas tank up today, because you'll never buy it at this, well, rarely will you find it any cheaper than what it is today. Let's go to Kansas and take a call from Matt. Matt, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Hi, Bobby. Hey, I paid $1.95 in Dodge City, Kansas yesterday.
Hey, you got to love it. You got to love it. I mean, you may as well enjoy it, because it's like everything else. And I'll tell you, the earlier we had Jim from Detroit, our car clinic reporter, talking about the profits that General Motors and Ford made, $2.something billion for first quarter. That profit, for the most part, is coming from SUVs and trucks.
Right.
And
right.
that the SUV and truck sales are really doing well. Why? Because of gasoline prices. So I don't know what happens if we all see $4 a gallon, and you just bought an SUV yesterday, and every time you fill it up, it costs you $100. But in the meantime,
it's always mind over matter anyway.
I know it. What can I do for you, my friend?
Well, I'm calling from Greensburg, Kansas, and we went through the EF5 tornado here 9 years ago.
Yes,
pretty
sir.
Quick. I got a '94 Ford F-150.
Okay.
She got totaled in the storm, but cosmetically, but it's only 117,000 miles on her, and she's always been a good daily driver, just running around. And I've had an O2 sensor problem. Now, it took the mechanic quite a while to figure out what I had going on there, but I'm wondering, what is the life expectancy of an O2 sensor, and how important is it on a 94 Ford?
Well, it's important in as much as the O2 sensor measures the amount of oxygen in the exhaust or the amount of fuel in the exhaust, and determines gas mileage. So, I mean, that's one of its duties, and also it determines clean air, because the cars have 4 O2 sensors if they have dual exhaust V8s, because you got a post-cat and a pre-cat sensor. but the precat sensor measures the air-fuel ratio, or what comes out of the exhaust, and determines, the adjustment. I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got a couple more bits of information, Matt. You stay right there, and folks, you stay right there. We'll take a short commercial break. I come back, and I'll fill you in on the rest of that story. Don't touch your dial. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. New federal fuel economy and tailpipe greenhouse gas emissions standards set to go into effect in 2017 present an opportunity for ethanol blends above E15. Specifically, the fuel economy mandate for cars and light-duty trucks by model year 2025 will be 54.5 mpg, doubling the fuel efficiency of those vehicles compared to new vehicles currently on our roads. Ethanol's high-octane rating, 113 for pure ethanol, will be a valuable asset to automakers as engines are designed to utilize octane to increase efficiency. Ethanol's ability to burn cleaner will help automakers meet the emission standards as well. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org. In the service bay this week is a 2010 Nissan Frontier. According to its owner, fuel economy is down and the vehicle is hesitating upon acceleration. Typically, this model vehicle can suffer from engine deposits for a variety of reasons. With no diagnostic codes or check engine light to work with, engine fuel trim is telling the tale. Our conclusion? Carbon buildup on the throttle body, intake valves, and piston tops. The answer? New Fuel Pro Complete from Motor Medic. Not your everyday fuel system cleaning kit. Fuel Pro Complete cleans both fuel and intake sides of the system. Most fuel system cleaners only clean through the gas tank. Fuel Pro Complete also cleans through the vacuum line. For newer cars, it cleans the top of GDI engines. For older cars, Fuel Pro Complete tackles traditional fuel system cleaning and intake cleaning. Visit fuelprocomplete.com for a demo video and port locator with a list of vehicle makes and models. That's fuelprocomplete.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
Some original thinking by Starbucks barista Frank Botex.
What I love most is getting customers to smile in the morning. Starbucks is just a place to come and relax, to kick your feet back. I mean, it's a second home. Starbucks is now in a grocery store, and what better way to just become your own personal barista at home? You go to the grocery store, pick up some coffee, take it home, let the aroma take over your body.
Your favorite Starbucks coffee, at grocery, at home, at last.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'll take your calls at 888 Car Clinic, and Ted will actually take your call, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Before the break, we're talking to Matt and about O2 sensors and how important an O2 sensor is. And I got to tell you, all of the sensors on today's cars are important. And it doesn't matter if it's 10 years old or if it's 10 days old, because the computer that tunes the engine, and this has really gotten to be a very technical age in automobile service and repair, but that computer must have input, and that input comes from a series of sensors that not only tell the computers on board the speed of each wheel. That's how ABS works and traction control works. You've got speedometers on each wheel. And you think about it, you say, well, gosh, that's a lot of wires, and it really is, but they use smaller wires, and they being the manufacturers, for the most part, 5-volt reference signals. And I can simplify it by saying that I'm going to instruct you to move your arm, and you're waving at someone, like saluting, but you're waving. And if I send you 5 volts and you move at 5 different levels, and you move halfway, you've moved 2.5 levels. And so that means that you took 2.5 volts and you moved 2.5 levels. Well, you send back 2.5 volts. So now I've got a reference, and I know exactly how far you moved your arm even without seeing you, because you sent, of the 5 volts I sent to you, then 2.5 volts you sent back. And it's not quite that simple, but basically that's how vehicles work these days. And that's how your throttle control works. The computer knows exactly where your foot is on the throttle from that throttle position switch. The computer also knows the load of the vehicle. So if you're towing a car or towing a boat, then that computer knows that you're under, that you are indeed under load. And what will it do? It makes the transmission stay into a lower gear longer. So all of those things are, all those sensors and all those driver inputs are built into the car's architecture. And let me clarify something else about reading codes, because this is one of the most misunderstood part of automobile service and repair. And that's when you can go to some parts stores and they'll read your code with a little $35 reader. Or you can buy iPhone, iPad readers that read the code in your car. In fact, Verizon has a new system out called Hum that will give you the same information, and it's based on a subscription, which is a really kind of a neat new tool, I say. And I know you're not into tools necessarily, but that particular product that Verizon has come out with, the Hum, is more than just reading codes. It also allows you to dial directly to a mechanic, so that if you've got a check engine light that comes on, then you want to know, should I drive the car, or is this dangerous, or I'm on a trip and I'm 2,000 miles or 200 miles away from home. Is the car okay to drive? And of course that unit picks up the code, and the technician knows what the code is and will advise you on the road. So that's a really good system. Now, on the other hand, just because you read the codes doesn't mean that you know what's wrong with your automobile. And just because a parts store reads your codes for you, and someone at the part, if you have a bad O2 sensor, I mean, that's typical, not a bad O2 sensor, a read of a code that shows an O2 sensor warning. And so you buy an O2 sensor and you put it on there and the light's still on. Well, what do you do then? Even worse yet, if someone reads the code of your vehicle and then they clear the code and you put a new part on it, and then the light comes back on, and you go to a service shop because the car doesn't run right, and the service shop looks into the history of the computer, and the history has just been cleaned. So there's no medical records. Just like, think about going to a hospital or a doctor, and you say, well, okay, let's look at where you were with your blood work a year ago, or your heart rate a year ago, and those sorts of things. And folks, that's what happens when you clear codes. That data goes away. Now, what we do is we save those codes when we read them, because after we perform a repair, and this is the way automobile service shops work, after a repair has been performed, then you want to clear the code because you want to clear the light. So you clear the light and you clear all the codes out, but you have them in your computer. We have them in our computer. And by the way, it's not just a scan, read the code computer. It is a very expensive, professional tool that not only goes into and reads the codes, but goes more deeply beyond the gatekeeper. And that's right, your car has a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper keeps out unprofessional tools. So you can't get beyond, if you've got a code for an O2 sensor, fine, but you can't trigger that O2 sensor, and you can't watch it work with a code reader. You can only say there's a code on. Well, what does that mean? So it's Greek to me, it's Greek to you. So we use a professional tool, and that professional tool goes into and beyond the gatekeeper and activates different portions of the car. A prime example would be an evap code, an evaporative emission on an automobile, like a loose gas cap. And so we can actually test that system and operate some of the solenoids that make that system work by using a computer. We can also tap into the suspension of a car that has an air suspension or a hydraulic suspension that's electronically controlled, and make that car dance a jig. Literally, you can make it right come up, right go down, left, rear, front, doesn't matter, all from a computer that's not even hooked to the car, other than the fact that it's hooked to a wireless transponder that is hooked to the automobile. So that's the difference between reading a code and being able to define what is wrong with the car that has caused that code to set. So I hope that sort of clears that up for you. And with, as I said, with Matt's call from Kansas and the O2 sensor, he just wanted to know if that O2 sensor was important. And the answer is absolutely. That O2 sensor, and even though the code says O2 sensor, doesn't mean the sensor's bad. It could mean that that particular part of the vehicle is not in alignment with the rest of the vehicle. Why? Maybe it's too rich. Maybe there's an injector problem. Maybe there's a pressure regulator. Maybe there's low fuel pressure. So maybe there's a vacuum leak, and it throws a code because the O2 sensor is having to work beyond its comfort zone. I started to say realm of authority, but there's a comfort zone there. There's always a comfort zone or a window of workings for different sensors of automobiles, just like your brake pedal. I mean, your brake pedal comes all the way up to the top, and you can push it maybe 2 inches, and there's nothing happens, and then you've got brakes, and then once you stop, you can still force the pedal down more because you're actually pushing those calipers and making those calipers spread. But the bottom line, you don't need that much force to stop the car. But it's like a clutch as well. If you have to depress the clutch all the way to the floorboard to get the car to shift, you got a problem in the clutch. On the other side, conversely, if you have to let the clutch all the way out and it only catches at the very top and it slips easily, then you know you got a problem in the clutch. So there's always a comfort zone or a working area, and that's where a technician's diagnostic skills come in. And that's what I really enjoy doing. I enjoy driving an automobile and listening to a car. And I had one in just yesterday that came in. It was a Honda Pilot that had a misfire at an idle. And this car, we had the records on this car. It's one of our regular customers. And this vehicle had a misfire at an idle and had a check engine light on. And it had some other problems historically. In fact, it had a bad catalytic converter, and we replaced that. But this was a new issue with the same light now. So that's all that the driver gets is the same light. So the check engine light was on, the driver comes in, and I sat in the car, and it had a misfire, but it had a different misfire. Misfire sometimes is like a hiccup in an engine. It runs and then it misfires. It runs and misfires, and it misses at random. But this had a rolling rhythm of a misfire. 1, 2, 3, miss, 1, 2, 3, miss, 1, 2, 3, miss, and it was always that way. So I said, well, maybe that's a valve issue problem. And sure enough, Honda Pilots need their valves adjusted. In fact, services level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 call for the technician, and listen to this, folks, calls for the technician to audibly listen to the valve train to see if there are any ticks that shouldn't be there, any noises, any clicks that shouldn't be there. And in this case, it wasn't a question of loose valves. It was a question of a tight valve. And sure enough, the exhaust on that vehicle was tight and holding the valve open because the clearance was wrong between the cam and the follower. And as a result, the compression on that engine at that particular cylinder that had the tight valve caused it to lay down whenever it came time to do its work. So it would go 1, 2, 3, miss, 1, 2, 3, miss. And on that fourth cylinder, it wouldn't necessarily misfire, but it didn't have the power. So therefore, it would cause the engine to roll at a certain rhythm. And that was the difference between an electronic problem that would throw a code and make the light come on, or a mechanical problem. So you say, well, how do you know the difference between one that's mechanical? Because the light was on. So what was the code for the light? And the code for the light had to do with the idle air control, because the engine didn't want to idle correctly, and because of this exhaust valve that was tight. So as a result, the idle air controller was told by the computer to pick it up some. It's more comfortable, pick it up some. And so this engine idled at a faster clip than it normally would, because it had a valve issue and not an electronic issue. So that's just one particular of all the cars that we had through our shop this week. That was just one particular instance and one particular problem that we ran across, that was a combination of electronics trying to take over and make up and mask a mechanical problem. So computers are great for automobiles. Today's cars are great for automobiles, but I can tell you the diagnostics and the testing involved to get to the bottom of any problem can be extensive. I'm going to take a short commercial break, come back, then I'll take your calls. 888 Car Clinic. History is full of automotive breakthroughs, like in-vehicle air conditioning in 1939 and airbags in the 70s. Now Shell is proud to introduce another automotive breakthrough, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, featuring an innovative additive package with patented technology. Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline protects against all three main types of engine performance threats: gunk, corrosion, and wear. Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline provides the best total engine protection you can buy. It actively cleans intake valves and fuel injectors and shields critical engine parts against future buildup. The result is a cleaner, more efficient engine that will operate at optimum performance. Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, proven in industry standard tests and recommended by BMW M Series. Don't give your engine just any premium gasoline. Choose a breakthrough. Choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Learn more at shell.com/US.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
You can call them used. You can call them previously driven. You can call them anything you want. The point is, somebody, maybe even a dozen somebodies, owned the car before you did. And before you put down your hard-earned dollars for the car, you deserve to know exactly where it's been. Get a vehicle history report from Carfax.com. They'll give you the real history of any used car. Visit CARFAX.com. or ask your dealer for a Carfax report. Don't buy a used car without Carfax.
I, Dennis Walker, pledge allegiance to the roof. I know it'll be clean. I know it will be comfortable. And I know that if the phone rings when I'm in the shower, I can just let it ring. For I have voicemail. Red Roof Inn, one room, under budget, with free cable and local calls for all.
98% of Red Roof guests are so satisfied with their visit, they plan to come back. Now that's not just loyalty, that's allegiance. For reservations, call 800-RED-ROOF.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're going to talk a little Greek here for all of those who are tuned in. My name is Likis, and I am a Greek heritage, so I'm I'm a technician. I'm a shop owner for 45 years. I built engines for rear engine dragsters, and I'm a follower and an avid proponent of alternative energy and renewable fuels, and including ethanol. And I welcome your calls. If you have a particular interest or a particular problem or just want to talk cars, I'm your man. And yeah, I do talk Greek, because when you go into your automotive service shop and they say, we replace this widget, what does that mean? What widget? And, you know, of all of the people that we've worked on their cars and all the explanations that we've given to all of our customers over the 45 years that we've been in the automotive service business, and we've had more than 200,000 cars and small trucks through our service shop, without an exception, I won't say without an exception, but without a doubt, when everybody leaves and they get in their car, they really don't know what we did. I mean, you just don't know what, I mean, unless you're a technician, unless you really understand cars, you don't know what it's done to your car when it's in the shop. You just know that it cost too much and they took too much time to do it, and you're just not sure that you really want to go back there. And that's the way it is. And so what you have to do is you and I and those of us in the automotive service business have to communicate. And sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it's not. The way we make it easy is that we invite you to come back in the shop. We invite you and explain to you. And I think what differentiates, I know what differentiates our service, and the reason that we've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Automotive Reputation, Best Oil Change, and we've actually won Gannett's Best for 5 years in a row, including 2015, and the 2016's coming up now. So now we got to double our efforts to win that one. But the bottom line, because we communicate, but mainly because we give time. People that have cars and they take their car in for service want time. They want the individual that's writing the ticket, that they're explaining what their problems are, not what's wrong with the problem, but what their complaint is with that vehicle. They want time. And that's that we don't have that. But we create that, and we make time. Now, we're not a 30 or 40 or 50 car a day shop. We don't live on those fast-paced, and get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. We don't do that. We take one case at a time, and we talk with our clients, our customers, and we determine what their car is doing they don't like, and then we take our time to learn what's going on with the automobile. And so most of the time, we'll charge an hour of test time. But almost without exception, I can say this, we'll spend an hour and a half to 2 hours of our time before we really know what it's going to take to fix that car. And then we put together an estimate for that owner that takes yet another 30 minutes. Because we have to locate the part, we have to determine where that part is going to come from and how soon we can get that part. And therein lies another aspect of automotive repair that you couldn't possibly know about. I mean, if you got a Chevrolet and you go to a Chevy garage, then yeah, they're going to have oil and filter and brake pads. But will they have a door handle release? Well, probably not. Probably have to order it. So there are that situations in every automobile, whether you drive a Mercedes or a Chevrolet or a Hyundai or Kia, it doesn't matter. It's just that you mainly need to look for and establish a relationship with a service shop so that you are comfortable with that service shop and ask questions. And if they won't give you the time, I mean, you can call. If they won't give you the time on the phone, they're not going to give you the time face-to-face. So therein lies some of the secrets to the success of our secret, and it's not really a secret at all. It's just old-fashioned the ways of doing business, and not to let today's 6-second society rush you. And that is a real issue. It is a real challenge. And it's a challenge for us because you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people waiting there. How much time do you give? I mean, if you're the 4th person in line or the 2nd person in line, you don't care about the first person. You just want to be the next person. You want to be it now. So, it's a two-way street. Let's go to Washington and take a call, and I'll take your calls at, well, Ted will, 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Victor from Washington. And folks, this gentleman, without a doubt, always has great input. Victor, glad to have you join us this morning.
Thanks, Bobby. You mentioned last week, as I recall, something about a new deal on water injection.
Yes, sir.
And but you never elaborated much on it. And I was just wondering. I've always been for that. I always wondered why all that heat. They didn't use it to make steam and so forth. What is that going on there?
BMW. The BMW actually had it on race cars to start as a prototype, and of course it's not new. We did this years ago, but what they're doing first. Let's state the problem. Here's the problem. The problem with gasoline engines is that what you have to do is you have to get power, you have to advance the timing and increase the compression ratio or increase the boost pressure of a turbo or a supercharger. And the more pressure you can put on top of the piston, it's called BMEP, brake mean effective pressure. The more pressure you put on top of the piston, then the more pressure it pushes the piston down, which turns the rear wheels. So what stops you from just, if 5 compression ratio, if 5 to 1's good, how about 10 to 1? Great. Well, if 10 to 1's good, how about 15 to 1? Not so great. Because what happens is you reach critical mass where when you compress something so firmly that you have a temperature rise, then you get detonation. And so what happens when you get detonation, you have to retard the timing. When you retard the timing, you lose the power. In fact, you can take any, and Lexus is a Toyota is a good example, because you can read the owner's manual, Victor, of a Toyota, and it says, can you use regular, and this car is made for premium fuel, can you use regular? It says yes, but you won't get the same performance. Right, because when you use regular in an engine made for premium, then that engine has to be detuned. And this goes back years ago. I mean, the British used to have a little screw on the side of a distributor, and you turn the distributor basic timing, the base timing, to lower it when you bought petrol that was lower in octane. So that's the real challenge. That means, and this has been going on forever, that since the internal combustion engine was created in the 1800s, you have to have increased octane. So you increase the octane, but you can only increase the octane to so much because you're still going to have a certain detonation factor. So how do you increase the violent atmosphere above the top of the piston that gives you more power without creating going beyond the threshold of that fuel's ability to not self-destruct or self-ignite? And how do you do that? You cool that chamber down. And that's where water injection comes in, and that's what BMW is doing in their 2017 series, and they're going to have them on in fact, they've already got it designed so that they're drawing and using, the air conditioner systems where they're extracting the water from the evaporator core and using it to keep the tank full of the water injection system, because otherwise that water would just drain out and go out, which is it's just atmosphere, it's just regular water. So that's what BMW has done, and what that does when you inject water in as a mist into the chamber, it cools that chamber. So what you can do is you can create more pressure with a chamber that has some forgiveness because it's been cooled. And Victor, one more, and then I'll turn the mic to you. One more. Very important note. Ethanol is like alcohol. It is alcohol. You pour alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, in your arm and our hand, and it evaporates and it cools. So ethanol at 10%, at 15%, and especially when you get up into the 25s and 30s, which is the sweet spot, which is what we're going to be seeing, and sooner the better, the ethanol, and especially true for direct injection engines, cools the chamber, which allows the manufacturer to use a higher compression ratio and a more aggressive timing curve to extract more power from the same engine at a sooner RPM, which increases MPG. And by the way, all of this also makes for cleaner air. So that's the most technology that we can get from an ICE at current times, and it really does work.
Yeah, well, in other words, they're fogging just a little bit of moisture with the water into the intake manifold and cooling the cylinder before they higher compression it.
Yeah, or in the case of direct injection, they're fogging you're right. They're fogging the water either into the intake or direct injection. And if you go to a higher ethanol content, then it's mixed with the gasoline because it's 30% ethanol or 25% ethanol and 75% gasoline. So the very act of spraying the fuel in there and atomizing the fuel gives that chamber a new breath of life, because it cools that chamber just enough so that you can start that fire a little bit earlier, so that you can have the maximum pressure at a certain degrees after top dead center, which is, there's a sweet spot for that as well. See, you got to start the fire before the piston reaches the top, because you want all of the combustion process to take place at a certain point after the top dead center, so that you get the maximum leverage to push the piston down.
Yeah, I always kind of wondered, after you had your fire off, and while the piston was maybe halfway down above the piston, if you could shoot some water right into that fiery mix,
well,
that would steam the water off instantly, and maybe
it would, but you wouldn't get any power from the water. What the water is better served to cool the chamber, so you can allow the fuel, because the water vaporizes and doesn't produce any expansion as compared to the fuels. So you want to use the water not as a pressure point and as a steam driver. You want to use it to cool the chamber, so that you allow the other properties of the ethanol and the gasoline to do their job better, harder, more pressure and firmer, so that you get better MPG and better power from the same engine.
You'd have to have a slow speed piston or a long slow speed stroke to take advantage. The steam is too slow at combusting, I guess, compared with the alcohol and the gasoline. Is much faster, so it wouldn't. It's too slow. It wouldn't get the power out of the water before the piston hit the bottom and started back up.
Exactly. And to that end, just for you to know, according to Argonne National Lab, there are more than 1,000 chemicals in gasoline, and some of those chemicals burn in 1 billionth, with a B, 1 billionth of a second. That's how fast some of those chemicals burn. And when some of those chemicals burn faster rate than other chemicals, and you've got 1,000 chemicals in a mixture of gasoline, all of a sudden you have different mixtures that are created, because you have some chemicals that go away and some chemicals that don't go away. And to that end, it's very important to remember that aromatics in gasoline really can cause serious health issues and problems, because aromatics are what's left over at the end of the burn cycle. And if you got a smidgen, and that's that's a particle left over, that's smog. And that's why I've always been so curious as to people that supposedly know this stuff, and they condemn ethanol. Ethanol, literally, the ethanol burns or boils at 174 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's no ethanol left over after the cylinder does its work. Now, ethanol is slower to burn to get started, but once it gets started, it flashes off. So it's a delicate mixture, and there's more science to it, but it's very interesting to me, and I just love to talk about it, obviously. But anyway, hey, thanks for your call, and you always bring the best out in me with your intelligent questions, and I mean that seriously.
Well, I have a lot of questions.
Well,
if you have time, I just point out one other thing. When the exhaust valve opens and the red hot mixture comes out, the finishing off and the burning of the fuel, that's a hot spot. Why don't they have a background metal piece that could stand hot and cold, and that piece where the fire would hit that right in the exhaust manifold, shoot water on the other side with a steam chamber, and take advantage of that heat and make steam. And then when you get enough pressure in the steam chamber, you could run a turbine that turned a turbo.
Well, because you can shortcut the steam and go directly to the turbo from the red hot exhaust, which forces the turbo to spin, which forces more intake. So you're added another layer of complexity there.
Well, yeah, but you got your exhaust is being forced out anyway. We just take the heat out of the exhaust.
Well, yeah, but you want that exhaust to go into the turbo and spin the turbo.
Yeah, but it would still be going out. I mean, it wouldn't. Would it take that much pressure out of the cooler exhaust being forced out by the piston? Because you would have an instantaneous heat hitting there, but the exhaust would still be going out. I mean, just the coolant. Well, when things cool, they shrink, but it wouldn't. The exhaust area in there wouldn't shrink that much. Would it?
Hey, my friend.
Where you still keep your poundage
I'll
up.
tell you what. You got to call me next week earlier, because you posed another great question. There's some engineer in the background. Hey, thanks for your call, Victor. And so get with me later on another show, because we are out of time. I am going to go to Gene. Gene, you have a question? Quickly, please.
Yes, I do. Very quickly. Bobby, how are you? Enjoy
Great,
the program.
Thanks.
Got a 2008 Honda Sonata.
Okay.
I got 190,000 miles on it.
Okay.
I'm looking at the fluid, got some other opinions, and it looks like definitely, since I don't have a record, the fluid should be changed, and I don't see a problem changing the actual fluid. However, I've been told that the filter can't really be, in order to change the filter.
Call me next week, Gene.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the Ultimax RT43, a smarter tire for a smarter driver. Size does matter when considering your vehicle's tires. Though plus sizing may seem like a fun choice to amp up customization, the choice is bigger than what meets the eye. Other factors include load capacity must be equal to or greater than OE tire fitment, inflation pressure never lower than OE manufacturer's recommendations, usually found on the door frame, rolling circumference, the original rolling circumference should be maintained as closely as possible, body and chassis clearance, ensure sufficient clearance under all service conditions, and gauges. The speedometer and other vital gauges may be affected by plus sizing. General Tire's Ultimax RT43 actually extends the life of the tire by visually identifying vehicle misalignment. Talk about a smarter tire. Visit GeneralTire.com for more details. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow,